If you're like me, there's only one thing that has to happen for you to finish a short story. And it seems really simple, but for whatever reason, it just ends up being something that doesn't happen. I don't know exactly why, but if this one thing doesn't happen, the story just, it never gets done. Ever. For whatever reason. It ends up just sitting on the computer or printed out in a drawer and not submitted anywhere, serving no use to anyone at all. The one thing that I've found for me personally that I have to absolutely do in order to get short stories finished is to finish it. Okay, that was, obvious, but I think that there are a few things we can do in order to actually make it more likely that we'll finish a short story, period. And maybe it sounds counterintuitive. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you already see this as a possibility or something that has to happen for you. But for me, in order to get a short story done, I've got to pump it out super fast. I have to go from ideation to completed short story in like 3 days, 2 days. I've found that for me, when I'm working on something for over a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, I either get bogged down in details that don't matter, or I forget the tone that I've been going for, or I just find something where I'm not relating to the characters and the story just never gets done. What ends up happening is I write a bunch of words that don't fit together. It's super disjointed. It's like squares in round holes, and the whole thing just kind of ends up being a mess. So the one thing that I have applied recently, and I just did this with a story that I finished a week ago, was, I was reading some other short fiction and just an idea, a tone popped into my head, fully fleshed out. That hardly ever happens. That it usually is kind of like pulling teeth a little bit to get some of these pillars kind of put in place so that when I can sit down and write the story, everything's there. But for this one, it just was there all of a sudden. The characters' first lines were jumping out of my brain. I had the tone there, story ideas, everything was just there. And so what I had to do is I just had to sit down and write the thing. And so it ended up being like a 4,500 word story, give or take. And what I did was, in a matter of about 2.5 days, I finished it. What was so great about that process was I got it done, and I got it done super fast. And what happened, because I finished it really quickly, was I was also able to start doing some editing on it, because I was so into the story and I was breathing it, living it. So I knew some of the tweaks that I could make structurally immediately after I was done. I didn't lollygag with it or play around with it, or, all those things that I seem to not be able to actually do well. Like the characters didn't click, the tone wasn't quite right, or dialogue seemed off. All those things weren't an issue with the story because I immersed myself into it and created momentum. This is true with novels as well, but I think with short stories especially, momentum is so key to getting the story finished. And obviously, finishing a novel, it is biting off small chunks consistently over a long period of time. But with a short story, you can binge it a little bit. It's very different. It's a different form. You can have a basic idea and pump out a bunch of short fiction in a short amount of time. Maybe I had an aha, an epiphany moment for myself where I realized, oh, if I just go from idea to finished story in a matter of like 2 days, I'll get a lot of these things done. Ha ha. So yeah, that is my offering to you. If you're struggling to finish short stories or struggling with the process, I don't know in which phase of the process you're struggling, but maybe just consider compressing your timeline. Say, if you have an idea on Thursday, say, I'm going to sit down on Friday and Saturday, and I'm going to give myself 2 days to finish this story. And the worst thing that can happen is you finish it and it's terrible. That's the worst case scenario. It's actually not that bad of a scenario because you've got something finished. I think the bane of writers is when they don't actually finish a story, and you can't do anything with unfinished work. What you can do with finished work, though, is you can submit it to be read by someone you trust, or you can submit it to magazines, or you can get it published. There's an unlimited number of possibilities that you can have with finished work. Obviously, if it's unfinished, can't do anything with it. That's this video. Let me know if you've struggled finishing short stories. Let me know if just forcing yourself to compress your timelines, see if that will work. Let me know if you try that in the comments below and if it worked for you. That'll do it for this one. Until next time, I'll see you later.